Hello everybody, Duck here, welcome to the stream. Get a quick mic check, volume check, sound good to you guys? So yeah, how's everybody doing this Sunday for most of you still. Bitcoin up on the chart. We nice little candle. Thanks, cowboy. We got a nice little candle developing right now. We got a 4-hour bullish engulfing. Okay, so what happened overnight? Bitcoin, obviously, we talked about these wicks, right? These wicks that go down, square up price, but then immediately get bought up. What happens, it's not so much about the wick, right? We talk about, it's about the follow through, okay? So even though you had this wick down, it was immediately bought up, right? And then price from there continued up and engulf up, right? So like this wick may have simply just been squaring up as much of this previous level as it could, okay? That was it. Strength was there, bids were there, price was gobbled up. And now we're engulfing, right? Okay, so let's look a little deeper, right? We kind of were saying if we ever get this slightly higher low like this, right? We like to see, okay, so it's like right here, we like to see bullish divergence, bullish convergence, hidden bullish divergence, and then up at the target bearish divergence, right? So right here, ideally, this should have painted hidden bullish divergence, okay? So if we look in on the MACD, from this previous negative histogram island, right, negative momentum island, to what happened last night, you can see that we painted lower levels of negative momentum on the MACD, right? You see how right there it's even. You see how we painted lower levels, okay? The level was lower, all right? So lower level of negative momentum, right? We just identified that. We had to zoom in to really see it, right? And at the same time, price from where the initial island was here, right? The C low, to what happened last night. You put in a higher low on price while putting in lower levels of negative momentum, okay? So the bears last night attempted to push price down, right? They tried to push it down, and they mustered more negative momentum, right? They gave it more of a shot to the downside, right? More momentum came in than previously on May 7th. They attempted a much harder push, not as hard as previous pushes, but harder than the previous local push, right? The last time we sold off, okay, this is all they were able to muster then. And last night they mustered more, even higher levels, right? Lower levels of negative momentum, but price did not reflect that, right? They were not able to push it back below the previous, here would at least been an equal low, right? They didn't push it below, which would have hit this stop at, that we had been trailing up. So they pushed it to here, and all they did was paint the hidden bullish divergence, okay? So what does that mean? That kind of signifies that we should have price action continuation to the upside, okay? So that's basically exactly what we're getting right now, right? You're getting that price action continuation to the upside. It hasn't really happened like it's gonna, right? Ideally, nothing's for sure, right? But this is how we start, right? We have to we said this first important level, right, was 57.6, right? This first level, we said we must, we came down and we tested it as support, failed, got back, bought back up resistance once, but then engulfed it, right? And came right to that next level that we had marked at 58.2, right? So we're back right in that zone. And, and we've been identifying this kind of sweet spot this whole time, right? Oops, wrong one. I wanted to just paint a simple. Okay, we've been identifying this zone, this gray box, as our overhead resistance for quite some time now, right? It's been in development since the beginning of the month, right? All of May, critical area. So what we're kind of looking at now is like, okay, so we took a shot at it, failed. We took another shot at it, failed. Well, this is kind of that third shot. And usually when we take this third shot, right, this is when we usually, the supply, right? We're talking about the supply. It's being attacked at, right, over and over and over again, repeatedly, and eventually, one side has to give. Somebody wins the battle, right? It's like just this point where the two sides meet head on, and just back and forth fighting price action, right? And somebody has to win. So that's kind of where we are, guys. We're basically looking at a supply that is dwindling. Okay, so if we paint this as like a trend line like this, right? So you can see almost like, okay, if I'll do it all in white, so you can see the trend that how we're painting. Price action is basically kind of, it's tightening, right? So when it's tightening like that, it's like a spring, right? So a spring, once it like coils up, right? Coiling price action, and it comes to an end, and then it just shoots out to one side or the other, right? So for us, it's a matter of trying to decipher which direction that spring is going to go, right? I mean, that's the point of our technical analysis, is just to identify these directions and potential directions in price, right? So look at that white line and then look at it again like this, right? And you can see how price is just coiling within this zone, right? Just tightening, and you don't have much left, right? So what I'm saying is, if this was you, right? If this was you as a box, and your entire apex was to here, right? We'll say this was you, like your health meter, okay? So we just identified you like this. Well, you're basically you're this far of the way through it, right? Actually, let me back up a little. You're this far of the way through it. You see that? This is where price is, and this is where the entire pattern would end. That's what we marked, right? So you see how I'm kind of just doing this almost like a percentage, right? We're looking for how far are we from the start to the end in development. Would you call that about 70%? I would. And that's about what happens in these springs, in these price action, contracting price action, right? The pattern typically will show its direction around 70% of the way through, okay? It doesn't it doesn't usually go all the way into this nose, right? Into the peak, into this like apex, whatever you want to call it, right? So basically, yeah, I mean, it's going to show its face, and it's going to show its face pretty soon, and it's loading up for it basically, okay? So okay. That being said, let's clean that up a little bit, okay? So now that you guys know what we're looking at there. So again, we've put in a low, the A, anchor point low, the C, new anchor point, right? Higher low. And now the recent last night, even higher low with our hidden bullish divergence, okay? So eventually, if we can get above this level convincingly, maybe back test it a little bit and go again, you're going to, here sooner than later, be able to do this and bring your stop up to under the 56k area, okay? Somewhere in that zone, just little by little. You know, we've been working this stop from down here, right? It started down here, it was previously here, now, well, it's still kind of right here, but here soon it's going to be up here, and eventually it's going to be up here, right? And we're going to just chase this all the way up into this box, okay, as protection, right? Okay, so go ahead and keep it below the C anchor point for now, right? Okay, so targets are still remains that 61,800 to 64,800, but again, we talked about right smack in the middle of it, we have that 63.3 area, okay, where something interesting is definitely going to happen there, okay? And that's this white line that we have marked. You can also see it's this area where both of these D targets, right? See both of these D of this harmonics, of these dual harmonics, right? They're both going to complete in this zone. So basically, when we see stuff like that, we usually have a pretty severe reaction to that level, okay? Reject it, and we sell back off. Now, it's not the end of the world, right? Something like this could paint and then continue again, but you typically see reaction when you see coinciding areas like that. More often than not, you see reaction, okay? It's not a guarantee. It doesn't have to happen, right? But you know, it does. So we just watch out for that, okay? So yeah, that could definitely happen on BTC, okay? So next area of interest, mainly really 63.3. Okay, this is Ethereum. Oops, change our tool. Ethereum USDT. So we had this previous zone that we talked about, right? We're talking about this being a measured move area, right? That's basically been hit, okay? So we could go ahead and delete those. But now we're still just kind of butting on the door of this overhead resistance that we've kind of developed kind of twice. We developed it here at 39 basically, and again at 39.40, and that's where traders actually settled up, not the wicks, right? It's the closes that are more of the critical overhead horizontal line resistance. The close is gonna be more significant, okay? It's gonna act a little stronger basically, okay? So okay, so basically let's see how we'd like to see this have painted hidden bullish divergence, okay? So let's take a look. We had it back here, okay? So at this point, that's kind of played out. I mean, really, ideally, you hit that target, right? We just showed that measured move. It was hit, and you got into this zone, guys. So really, I mean, at this point, you have to start being careful again on this asset. Can it keep going? Sure, but you've started to reach zones, areas that we previously identified as critical, and look, you stopped right there. How how else would you, when price was down here, how else would you stop an asset right there, right? Without knowing what, without, how do you say TA doesn't work? You know what I mean? Look where we parked this thing, right into our box, right? Almost got every little bit of it. Look at that. You were off of our target by $15 of getting absolutely all of it, right? And that was just 4K. And we even spoke about 4K being front run, right? We're like, look, 4K is too round of a number. Psychological round number, right? So we said we're going to front run it. We're going to make sure that orders fill. Well, I mean, I don't know how much more textbook of a situation it could be, right? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to see, right? When things hold up like that, really nice. Uh, at this point, in order to go higher, basically, in order to go higher, two things have to happen, and Bitcoin is kind of, you know, we just looked at it, right? There's a potential for Bitcoin to go continue to 61, 63, 64, 8, even high side of that, right? So if that's going to be the case, can ETH continue on up? You need to, let's see, if we go in a little bit, let's go in just a bit, see what you're painting. Okay, so it looks and appears that you're painting some kind of inverse head and shoulders-esque price action structure. Okay, so let's lay this out a bit and just see if there's any sort of argument here on a lower time frame while Bitcoin is about to see. We're doing this because the macro is in our favor here, right? So we're just seeing, okay, so MACD looks like not too bad, right? Looks like it's in our favor to an extent where you're starting to show much lower levels of negative momentum, right? The negative momentum is starting to wane and roll over, and you're attempting and ideally looking for positive momentum, right, to build and paint, right? You want to see this momentum come up and build a positive momentum island. Here's your opportunity to basically, I mean, break the new highs, right? I mean, you have to get some kind of help, right? Some momentum. So again, here on the RSI, not bad, right? It's possible that this is basically converging, where the oscillators and price action are all converging in the same direction. Okay, so okay, you have a possibility here on the oscillators. What you're now doing is you're painting this critical, you know, the gray box, basically, right? Even below it, you could say that, let's take this gray box and we'll just take it to the 4 hour, and we'll paint a new one just in this zone, okay? Between these two red lines, okay? This is more of the overhead neckline kind of resistance currently being painted, okay? So this line up here is simply just 4K, right? Just kind of this critical 4K area. Oh, there it is. Okay, so critical 4K